Telling the history of art in San Marino is no easy task. First and foremost, it means coming to terms with what is no longer there. It is a story filled with great losses and disappeared buildings, which had marked the face of the city for centuries. The Romanesque parish church, the old government building, the Parva Domus on the Pianello. But it also means talking about rediscoveries, such as the 15th century frescoes that re-emerged in St. Francis Church, and renovations, such as those commissioned by Gino Zani in the 20th century, when San Marino decided to rebuild and reshape its historical image, as we saw in the last episode of the podcast. Since it is impossible to paint a whole picture, we will take a different approach. We will tell you the story of San Marino art through a number of symbolic places that narrate their era. 3 buildings, 3 different moments in time, one common thread. The way San Marino has chosen to represent itself over time through stone, images and art. We'll tell you all about it after the theme song. Welcome to the Oldest Republic. I'm Federica. Join me in this adventure. Enjoy the episode. When we enter the Convent of St. Francis today, what we see is in reality the result of a 20th century decision. The appearance that seems so consistent, so medieval, is the result of historical reconstruction carried out by Gino Zani between the 1950s and 1960s. After the walls and towers, the church and convent were also restored to their ideal late 14th century appearance through careful philological research, not without interpretative reconstructions. But the Franciscan presence in San Marino is much older. The first convent was not located on Mount Titano, but in Murata, a small hamlet about a mile from the city, and was founded around the middle of the 13th century. The early spread of the Franciscan throughout the Montefeltro area is linked to the tradition of the journeys made by Francis of Assisi, founder of the Franciscan order at the beginning of the 13th century. The presence of the order in San Marino has been documented since at least 1253. Around the middle of the 14th century, following a process common to other communities in the area, the Franciscans moved closer to the town centre. Today, only one trace remains of the first convent, a wooden crucifix, heavily altered, preserved in the apse of the church. The new complex was built using materials from the previous Romanesque building, adopting more distinctive Gothic forms, a style that, in Montefeltro, remained however sober and restrained. The works were entrusted to local craftsmen and master builders from Como, who were involved in many construction projects in medieval Italy. Construction began in 1361 and continued for several decades until consecration at the end of the 14th century. A fascinating element of the complex is the bas-relief on the portal, featuring a crowned eagle and a human figure alongside it. Its meaning has long been debated. Political symbol, portrait of a benefactor, or reference to a broader cultural tradition. There is no definitive answer, and it is precisely this ambiguity that makes the monument even more interesting. The convent of St. Francis was also a place of study and culture. Giovanni Bertoldi da Serravalle was educated here. In the 15th century, he participated in the Council of Constance and translated Dante's Divine Comedy into Latin, thus contributing decisively to its dissemination throughout Europe. We can assume that at the beginning of the 15th century there must have been many frescoes in the church. Today, only fragments remain, including a refined Adoration of the Magi, a painting in fully Renaissance style. During the 15th and early 16th century, the church was enriched with works of great quality, panels, altarpieces, and images featuring one of the oldest pictorial representations of Mount Titano, with a clearly recognizable outline of the 3 towers. The church experienced a further leap forward in the 17th century, when the Franciscans of San Marino began to turn to masters linked to the great artistic centers. An important example of this is the commission for a St. Francis receiving the stigmata attributable to Guercino's workshop. It is the sign of a new era, in which art also becomes an instrument of prestige and social representation. If you happen to visit San Marino, stop by the St. Francis Museum and Picture Gallery. Today, it houses not only paintings, but also sculptures, sacred furnishings, manuscripts, and precious objects. A heritage that perfectly illustrates the central role that this place has played in the artistic and cultural history of San Marino. Now, let's take a step forward. In modern times, the center of art in San Marino shifts to a different place, quieter and less visible, but central to the life of the community, the Monastery of Saint Clare, which, as we will see, is linked to a very young girl and has a truly fascinating history. Its birth took place at a time of profound change for the Catholic world. After the Council of Trent, in response to the Protestant Reformation, the Catholic Church launched a vast program of reforms that also involved monastery, redefining their functions and rules. Throughout the Montefeltro area, female religious settlements multiplied, and even San Marino considered the possibility of founding a convent of clarisses. It was not an easy process. After an initial refusal in 1565, the Great and General Council, the Parliament of San Marino, finally gave its consent, thanks to the intervention of Costantino Bonelli, a San Marino citizen and bishop of a municipality in central Italy. The new monastery was built next to the old government building, overlooking the edge of the mountain, in a location that was as quaint as it was challenging. Indeed, the works proceeded slowly. The rocky land, the limited resources, and Bonelli's death slowed down the construction for decades. For a long time, the Monastery of Saint Clare remained an unfinished building, almost suspended, while the community's attention and funding shifted elsewhere. It is a truly interesting story because the fate of the monastery was changed by an unexpected figure, a girl of just 12 years of age, Vincenza Lunardini. Left orphaned and heir to great fortune, Vincenza wanted to enter the convent of San Marino. Her choice was so controversial that it required the intervention of the Duke of Urbino, the Republic's long-standing protector. On the 28th of April 1609, the day of the official inauguration, Vincenza entered the monastery together with 11 other young women. From that moment on, the convent of Saint Clare truly began to live. Vincenza, who became Sister Innocenza, led the community for a long time and was the protagonist of an episode that deeply affected the collective imagination. During a prayer, a lightning bolt struck inside the monastery and hit her on the head. She survived, and immediately people talked of a miracle. Actually, the lightning bolt was not an isolated event. The location of the complex, exposed to cold and damp, often made it vulnerable to bad weather. During the 17th century, the monastery also became a place of education. An institute for female education was established on the upper floor, and many of the girls who studied there ended up taking their vows. It must be said that, as was normal for those times, entering a convent, in most cases, was not so much a response to a religious vocation as it was to specific family strategies. The monastery offered a socially acceptable and less expensive solution to marriage. Over time, the convent grew, adapting to the daily needs of the nuns and the complex morphology of the site. It was not a monumental project, but developed slowly, using simple materials and practical solutions. Even today, its terraced gardens and internal pathways reveal a functional architecture designed to be lived in. After the Second World War, the nuns of Saint Clare moved to a new monastery outside the historic centre. In 1968, the state acquired the entire complex, which now houses the university and the Museum of the Emigrant, becoming a space dedicated to study, memory, and culture. Some works from the ancient artistic heritage remain preserved in the State Museum, including an altarpiece from the 17th century Urbino School of Painting attributed to Giovanni Battista Urbinelli, evidence of 17th century painting in the Urbino area. The last stage of our journey through San Marino's art takes us to the political and institutional sphere. Indeed, if there is a place in San Marino that more than any other epitomizes its history from its origins to present day, that is the government building overlooking Liberty Square. It is not just the seat of government, it is a symbol designed to tell the story of the identity of San Marino people and the way they want to present themselves to the world. The building we know today is not the first one in history. Beneath it lay the remains of the medieval Domus Magna Communis, which you could translate today as the great house of the commune that was rebuilt several times over the centuries. However, by the early 19th century, the old building was already proving inadequate. And in the 19th century, the time had come to build a new building worthy of representing the Republic and serving as its symbol also beyond its borders. The first project in neoclassical style was shelved. The final choice was radical, going back to the Middle Ages, the historical moment in which the Republic had its roots. Between 1884 and 1894, the new government building was built to a design by Roman architect Francesco Azzurri, inspired by the idea strongly supported by Pietro Tonnini that San Marino should present itself as a medieval republic still alive today. It was not a neutral aesthetic choice. During those years, many cities in central Italy were rediscovering the Middle Ages. But for San Marino, this had a specific political value, reaffirming its unique historical continuity. The reference model was Florence with its Palazzo della Signoria, the symbol par excellence of the tradition of the communes. The new building was built with stone from Mount Titano, worked by local stonemasons. Supporting it, almost literally, is the bronze statue of Saint Marino as stonemason. This is an image that links the myth of the origins to work, effort, and the material construction of the state. The facade, with its Gothic arches, merlon, and tower, is a concentration of symbols. Inside, each space tells a fragment of history: busts, tombstones, inscriptions, works commemorating decisive moments in San Marino's history, and figures who supported its freedom, such as Abraham Lincoln and Pope Clement XII, and warnings against those who tried to take that freedom away from the San Marino people, such as Giulio Alberoni and Cesare Borgia, whom we talked about in the second episode of this podcast. The building was inaugurated in 1894. On that occasion, Giosuè Carducci delivered the official speech, The Perpetual Freedom of San Marino, which was destined to fix the Republican myth forever. Carducci's words and Azzurri's architecture worked together, one with bricks, the other with rhetoric, fixing an image of a medieval republic unchanged over time. In the same year, Emilio Retrosi also painted the large tempra that dominates the hall of the Great and General Council. Saint Marino appears to his people. It is a deliberately archaic image which looks to the past to speak to the present. The saint is not a distant figure, but the symbolic guarantor of the Republic's freedom. It should be noted that the building we see today is the result of restoration work. Between 1994 and 1996, the building was restored under the guidance of Gaia Aulenti to adapt it to contemporary institutional needs, because in addition to being a jewel in the crown of San Marino art, it is still the seat of the Republic's highest institution. In short, it is a living building, which has changed over centuries, adapting to the needs of the moment without losing its meaning and value. The government building marks the end of our journey through San Marino's art. Art is a way of giving shape to memory, of making the history of a small republic visible, a republic that has chosen to tell its story over time. We will continue to tell you this story next week, as always, here on Storia in Flanella. Thank you for listening, and until next episode, goodbye.